Okay, so we're recording now. Welcome, welcome. I'm Renee Rowe. And since 2014, I've been working full-time internationally as an intuitive counselor and teacher. And I do offer individual sessions, regular spiritual classes, workshops, and retreats. Officially welcoming you to the free monthly Intuitive Cafe. The topic today is connecting with spirit, okay? And why I chose this specific topic is I just noticed personally in my life, a lot of lives of other people, is that you're dealing with uh, people passing, loved ones passing, or maybe you're even approaching your own transition. And I wanted to share information about just what I've personally experienced communicating with spirit, loved ones who have passed, communicating with them, and what they've shared with me, whether it's the transition process, what happens when they're on the other side. Okay, so I'll be sharing just a little bit of information, and there will be time for questions too, if questions come up, okay? And I just first want to just share a little background about my experience communicating with spirit. So my first memory was when I was about 2 to 2.5 years old. My Nana, that would be my father's mother, my grandmother, passed away. And I remember I get this memory of when I was 2 years old, and I could easily see the image of her. And it was actually kind of confusing to me because she was trying to explain to me that she was there, but in a different way. She couldn't hold me or cuddle me, or I wouldn't feel her, the physical sensations of her affection. But she was there in her spirit form. Okay. And so ever since I was a child and growing up, I had this communication with spirit. And the funny thing was, it wasn't until my early adult years that I realized that not everyone had this ability. Okay. So for me, it was something that was very, very normal. Also, in my family lineage, the gift is normal as well. So there's a lot of people in my family that have that connection with spirit as well. Okay. And what I first want to just talk about is the death process. Okay. The transition process. So I'm going to use my dad as an example. So I did support my father. He had gotten brain cancer, and I did support him during that process of transition. He wanted to transition at home. And when he was nearing his transition time, the realm of spirit opened up to him, right? And and all of a sudden he was able to see and communicate with loved ones who had passed. So that realm, which was closed off to him before, opened up for him as he was nearing that time of transition for himself. And and it was a very just very special moment for me because I got to share that connection with spirit with my father, where it was closed off to him before, and I got to support him in navigating how to work with that. And it was really funny because the first question he asked me, he's like, Renee, how can I tell who's real and not real? Like what's going on here? and and so I got to work with him and teach him how to distinguish like who's in the spirit form, who's kind of real, right? Because that was confusing for him. And one thing that I learned quickly is to check for that pulse, that human pulse. Kind of tune in. If you're empathic, you can sense and feel, and you can tune in to whether somebody has a pulse or not. If they got a pulse, right, they're in their human form. If not, right, that could be the spirit form. So that's what I shared with my father. And the beautiful thing, as he was nearing his time of transition, right, that realm of spirit opened up and all this love and support came in. for him to cross over, for him to transition. Okay. So I want you to know that our loved ones who have already crossed over, who have already passed, they do come in to support that transition, right? So somebody is not alone when they're going through that transition, right? When they're nearing that time of death, all of that loving support comes in to be that guide to support with the transition. Okay. Right. And that realm of spirit opens up for people as they near that transition, that death process. Okay. It's so important that you know that your loved ones are not alone. One thing also that I've noticed that that some loved ones that are passing, they do have a preference sometimes for nobody to be in the room. So if you're ever holding any guilt around, like you were there, you left the room, you left somewhere, and your loved one passed, just know that it is common at times for your loved ones wanting people to kind of be away to go kind of through that transition process, okay, on their own. So not necessary to hold on to any guilt if you weren't present at the time of the passing. Okay. Okay. And you know, recently a client of mine had asked me, you know, someone had, you know, loved one had passed, and they wanted me to go in and kind of like ask like how their passing was, and it was a little intense for me to be like, okay, let's open up and just experience how this passing was for this person, right? And what was interesting is that it wasn't painful. It felt instantaneous. Okay. It was all of a sudden, it's like here you're alive in your kind of human form, and it just like quickly, and everything just kind of like went dark, right? And so the transition is not painful. It's very quick. Okay. So it's like you have an awareness of everything, and then boom, real quick, right? It's just you're gone. So there's no pain in that process. Okay. And after someone transitions and crosses over, right, there will be a life review process. Okay. And this life review process doesn't have a specific time frame. You know, here, you know, we're used to linear time. Guess what? That linear time doesn't exist in the spirit realm. So there isn't like a specified time where someone's a loved one who's transitioned and crossed over is in their life review process. Okay. And what they're doing in their life review process is having that time to reflect back on the life that they lived. And they're looking at it from this higher perspective. Okay. And there's a lot of growth and healing that happens during that time. When our loved one is in that life review process, they're kind of cocooned. Okay. And they're cocooned and they're in their life review process. And it isn't really the appropriate time to be connecting with our loved ones who have crossed over to communicate a lot. You may even feel that they're not around so much, right? And if you're feeling that, just know that they'll come around soon. They're just in their life review process. Okay. So just to recap, there's not linear time in the spirit realm. So there's not this set time of like 2 months that they're in the life review. It can be unique to the person. If they have a lot of healing to do from the life that they led, healing and processing to do, they might be in their life review process kind of cocooned away from everyone for a little bit longer amount of time. Okay. So just know if that your loved one recently passed and you're struggling with having that communication or feeling their presence so much, it's most likely because they're in their life review process and they're just really needing that time for themselves to provide that growth and healing and see from that higher perspective of the life that they led. Okay. And with after the life review process, then there's usually that time where they'll reunite with other loved ones who have already passed, okay? And then also reaching out more to communicate with you here, what you know, the living, okay? And just about that life review process, a similar process that I know personally is working with the Akashic record and accessing that guidance and higher perspective, right? So there is kind of that way that we can already start that process with honoring the growth of our soul, okay? And anything where it allows you to tune into that higher perspective, right? And look at your life, the dynamics, the relationships, right? That heal and grow from those moments, okay? So working with the Akashic record is similar to that life review process that maybe a loved one who's in spirit is going through, okay? Okay. So here you have this loved one who's transitioned, right? They've been supported by all their loved ones who have already transitioned to support them in that crossing, right? They're not alone. They go into their life review process. Okay, so they're kind of cocooning from everyone to just process and grow and heal. And I absolutely love witnessing that when connecting with loved ones who have passed, is that they have grown. A lot of times they'll share with me and communicate like, oh yeah, when I was living, I was so stubborn. I wouldn't listen to anyone. And they just kind of, they're laughing about it. And they're just like, but now, you know, I've grown. I'm more open and flexible, right? So they'll reference how they used to be in the moments when they were living and showing the growth that they've had. Okay, so that's beautiful to witness, that there's this growth and healing that happens when you're in spirit. Okay, and a couple things I've noticed is loved ones might stay more earthbound, right? So your loved ones in spirit might stay more tied to the earth. Okay, and this will happen is maybe they're really feeling the call to support their loved ones who are still living on earth, to be more present and support them more. Okay, right? Maybe they're feeling like they have some unfinished business with their life, right? And they'll stay kind of what we'll call them is like earthbound spirits. They'll stay more connected with the earth. And if they're making that choice, then communicating with them is a little bit easier, right? They're more grounded, connected with the earth. I'll be able to see them more clearly, hear them more clearly. For other people that don't have that ability so developed, they'll feel the presences more kind of like they're close by, behind them. Maybe sometimes you feel a hand on your shoulder or an embrace. Okay, that means that that spirit, that soul has chosen to stay closer to the earth, closer to loved ones, supporting them, or just clearing up some unfinished stuff they might have here. Okay, and sometimes what does happen is the loved ones who have transitioned, sometimes it takes them a little while to figure out that they did transition. So that could happen sometimes too, right? And we could always help by, if you feel their presence, just tuning in and being like, oh, you know, just reminding you that you have transitioned and passed. So giving those reminders to our loved ones, you know, so they're kind of fully healing and feeling free of their kind of physical body's connection with the earth, just reminding them that they have transitioned and crossed over. Okay. Another situation that I've noticed as well is I kind of call it a full transition. Okay, where they're not our loved ones who have passed, they haven't transitioned and they're not more earthbound. They transition, and it kind of, to me, it kind of feels like they're like an angel watching over us. Okay, where you might not hear the messages so clearly, but you can feel their presence watching over you. Okay, so to me, that's kind of more of that full transition, where it's almost like they're this angel watching over you, but you won't feel their presence is so near you, right? Like you would where someone's more like earthbound, right? Closer to the earth, right? But you will feel this sensation of this like loving, angelic presence, right? Watching over you. Okay. For me, I talked about my Nana, who was my first experience when I was about 2.5 years old. And for I think about until my mid-20s, she was more of an earthbound spirit. And we had I had a very close relationship with her. She lived with me. Uh, and and then in my mid-20s, she did her full transition. Okay. And that was another kind of grieving moment for me. So I did go through another grief period with that because I didn't feel her presence, wasn't able to sit and chat with her so regularly, and so sometimes there you might notice these kind of two grieving processes you go through, which is completely normal, right? Where your loved one might be more earthbound, more accessible. They do that full transition and they're farther away, just like this loving angelic presence watching over you, but you will feel kind of this sense of space and distance. Okay. And that's what happened to me with my Nana, right? So my mid-20s or so, she did that full transition, and I don't get to like sit with her and have chats. It's more I can feel her loving presence watching over me. Okay. Okay. And I want to talk a little bit about just maybe the grieving process. Okay. And after we chat about the grieving process, I thought we would just share some tips about communication with spirit, if that was something that you were wanting to bring into your life, right? Communication with spirit and connecting with loved ones. Okay. So with the grieving process, for me, I like to think of the grieving process as the ultimate self-love practice. And the reason for that is, to me, when we have that develop that self-love, that unconditional love for ourselves, is no matter what comes up for us, we're honoring it. Okay. We're not denying parts of ourselves. We're not wishing for parts of ourselves to not exist. Okay. And with the grieving process, you'll notice that the waves of grief come up to where you need to tend to it, right? You can't put it off for later, right? That wave of grief is so intense that a lot of times you just have to sit with it and tend to yourself, right? Which is different than maybe other emotions that come up where you can kind of put them to the side or tuck them away for later. And to me, that's why the grieving process has a beauty to it where it can teach you self-love, right? To tend to yourself, right? To provide that love and nourishment to yourself when it's greatly needed. Okay. So with that grieving process, it's important to tend to those waves of grief that come up, to not put a time limit on when you should be finished grieving. Okay. Let it be 10, 20 years if it needs to be. Okay. And another way of working with the grieving process is a lot of us want to hold on to that connection that we had with someone that was very, very dear to us, right? And you might think about what were those attributes that they displayed that you really appreciate, okay? And you might even do that right now, right? You're thinking a loved one who has passed, right? What were those attributes about them that you really appreciated, that maybe you looked up to them in that way, right? And to truly honor them, you might give yourself permission to embody those same attributes, right? So an example is maybe you really appreciated the kindness that someone would show to others, right? And to honor who they were in this life, right? You're going to set that intention in their honor to offer kindness to others. Okay. And as you go out and about living your life, right, you're offering that kindness to others, but you're very consciously aware that that kindness that you're offering to others is in the memory and the honoring of that loved one, right? So they're living through you. Okay, that's one way that really supports the grieving process, where you can feel that closeness with someone. Okay. Okay, just kind of checking in if there's anything. Oh, one other thing with the grieving process that I noticed that comes up with clients is that they'll hold these standards and expectations to continue to have the same productivity that they usually do. And just a reminder that if you're grieving, right, you're going through a moment of deep healing for yourself. And so I would say let go of those expectations and standards that you have of yourself to be really productive, and just give yourself permission to go at a slower pace. Remind yourself that you're healing. It's completely normal and natural to maybe just do one little thing at a time. If you're used to getting this long list of things done and it goes down to that, that's normal and that's okay, right? And just reminding yourself, like, it's okay, right? I'm grieving. I'm in a deep moment of healing. You don't need to be running around doing lots of stuff. Okay, so that's a just a little reminder there. It's a time for deep healing, not being really productive, and just coming into acceptance with that, right? Because there's an extreme value with honoring the grieving process, right? Just like I was talking about earlier, it's like that self-love process. Okay, you're tending to yourself. Okay. Okay. And I just, before we shift into communication, just want to check in to see if anybody had any questions or anything. Okay. So we're going to transition into talking about communicating with spirit. Okay. So when you're opening up communication with spirit, I would say that intentions are really important. Okay. So remember how I was saying that in the spirit realm, they don't have this linear time that we're used to living in, this clock time, linear time, right? So it's not like you would say hey friend, I want you to come over at noon tomorrow to chat with me, right? Because there's not this linear clock time. Okay. So what I would recommend, if you're wanting to open up that communication with a loved one, is to have a practice that you do that indicates, like, when I set up this, for an example, when I set up this altar, I'm welcoming in communication with you. Okay. And one of the easiest ways to set up an altar, I brought some flowers in today, right, is maybe having a little table or a little space that you kind of clear off, right? You put some flowers. Great if you know whoever you're wanting to communicate with, you know that what their favorite flowers are, or something like that. Or maybe you go out, you go on a walk and you clip a rose or something and you put that in, right? You make it more personable, right? Lighting a candle, right? Having items that represent them, or items that were theirs when they were living. Okay, a picture of them. So you're setting up this little altar, right? And right as you're setting this up, it just needs to be a few minutes, right? Some flowers, a candle, putting a picture of them, right? You light the candle, and as you're lighting the candle, you're setting that intention to open up for communication. Okay. So you see how you're using a practice and an intention of when you sit down and you create the altar, that's you're sending this signal to your loved one in spirit, like, this is the time to connect with me, right? You're sending that communication out, that signal, like, oh, this is the time to connect with me, right? So so they know that you are kind of creating that space to be receptive and open to the messages. Okay. So that would be a great first start, right? Just setting up that altar, right? And getting that practice of here I'm opening up to communicate with my loved one in spirit. Okay. And one thing that can get overlooked is our loved ones in spirit, they have their unique communication styles. Okay. And what I want you to think about, so if there's a specific loved one that has transitioned that you're like, oh, I'd love to connect with them. Let's think about what was their communication style when they were living. Okay. This gets overlooked a lot. Like somebody's like, oh, I really want to see them. Right. And it's like, well, maybe they weren't really a visual person. Maybe they were more of a feeler and a sensor. Right. Then you're going to feel and sense their presence more. Okay. So, what was that communication style when your loved one was living, right, in their human body form, right? What was their communication style? Were they artists? Were they very visual? If they were very visual people, right? Maybe if you even look at their past communications, right? Did they communicate with images more than words, right? So if this was your loved one's communication style, then guess what? When transitioning and being in spirit form, they're going to communicate with you more, maybe showing you their presence, right? Or maybe they'll even send you an image of something, okay? Because that's their communication style, okay? One example that happened to me is that my dear cousin, we grew up like siblings. He transitioned and passed away. He was an amazing artist. He was always drawing, right? He was this amazing visual artist, right? And so when he transitioned, I was just kind of sitting. I was actually in Bolivia at the time traveling, and I was just sitting there on the steps, kind of drinking tea. And all of a sudden, he comes and sits down next to me, and I was like, "Whoa!" Because he just looked completely like solid human to me, right? He wasn't very talkative, but his presence was just very visual to me. Okay, because that's his way of communicating, right? His style of communication, being that visual artist. Okay. So if you're a loved one who transitioned, maybe they were a big communicator with words. Maybe they had a passion for writing. Maybe they had a passion for chatting with people and checking in, right? They were big communicators with their words, right? Maybe that's how they express themselves with others. So guess what? In spirit form, right? They're gonna want to communicate more through words, right? Right? You might, if they were a communicator with words, you set up your little altar and you might get a pen and paper ready and just see if they want to send messages right through journaling or something, right? Or maybe you sit really quiet and see if there are any words, right? You might feel that sense of knowingness, right? Any words want to come through, okay? Right? Because how they communicated when they were in their living human form, right? That same type of communication is going to carry over in the spirit realm, right? With their being in spirit form, wanting to communicate with you, okay? So you can see how, like, say if you were wanting to just see the presence of someone, but that's not their communication style, they're more into communicating with words. Maybe they were a writer in their life or something, right? Their communication will be more in that way, right? Another type of communication style that people could do is maybe they were great huggers, right? Can you think of one that was like, oh, they just gave such amazing hugs, right? Maybe it was more their presence, right? Were they people that were very affectionate, right? Feelers, sensors, right? So if that is your loved one's communication style, right? In spirit form, they might communicate more with like you really feeling and sensing their presence. Okay? Right? You might even feel them hugging you, embracing you, right? Placing a hand on your shoulder, holding your hand. Okay? So just know that however your loved one has communicated to you while they're in their human form, right? They're going to bring that same type of communication style with them in their spirit form. And then that's how they're going to try and reach out and communicate with you and with others. Okay. So I hope that helps. And I hope you guys have fun opening yourself to communicate with your loved ones, right? Setting up that altar, getting kind of checking in with yourself and getting clear of like, well, what was their communication style? Okay, they were a feeler and sensor. So I'm going to open myself to receive that type of communication. Okay. Maybe they were a lover of nature, right? Maybe they had a love for the outdoors, right? Maybe they'll send messages through the animal world, right? Is there a certain bird that keeps coming in, right? A hummingbird, a blue jay, right? That comes in at that right moment, right when you needed them, right? That's your loved one communicating to you, okay? A lot of things that are common too. They like to flicker with the lights. I had my great uncle Harry who passed. He loved slamming the cupboards. He's always like, make me a tuna sandwich, and he'd be like in the kitchen slamming all the cupboards. Okay, so those can be signs and signals from your loved ones. Okay, the flickering of the lights. I mean, or maybe an item you were looking for appears, disappears. Okay. Okay. Just checking my notes here. Okay. And some of you know that I do work closely with the Akashic record, and through the perspective of the Akashic record, there is the belief in the soul, and also the honoring of free will choice. And there is also the belief in reincarnation. Okay. Right? You have your soul, and there's multiple human lives, human forms that you take. And I've also noticed this same this same situation when connecting with loved ones who have transitioned and crossed over, where it's almost like I'll be communicating with this energetic imprint of them that really represents their personality, who they were in the lifetime that they're describing to me or sharing about with me. And they'll also show me at times, which was a surprise to me, they'll show me at times whether they're kind of still in the spirit realm or if their soul has reincarnated. Okay. So if you were wondering like, oh, what if they reincarnate? Can I still communicate with them? The answer is yes. Okay. And why I can say yes is because I personally experienced it, where I've been shown like, oh, here they are in this like energetic imprint, right? Of showing me like who they were in this life they recently lived. And they're showing me they're still able to communicate with me. And then they're also showing like, oh, I've reincarnated and I am back in like in a physical body living out earth, right? And their soul will be intact. That's why I call it an energetic imprint. It's not like they're just leaving a fragment of their soul with me. It's like their soul there. So it's like this imprint of them that you can still communicate with. It holds the essence of that human life that they live, but they'll show me that their soul's intact and they've actually reincarnated and started like a new human life. Okay. Hope some of you can grasp that. It could be a little out there for some, but it's just what I've witnessed. Okay, so just know that if the soul does choose to reincarnate and live a new human life, that you'll still be able to communicate with that loved one. Okay, who has transitioned. Okay. Okay. So I do want to talk about just intentions.
How do you spell Akashic? Akashic?
How do you spell it?
Yeah.
Yeah, Akashic is Akashic. Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Hey, Renee, can I ask a question too right now?
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
hey,
Who is that?
it's me now.
Yes. Hi. Let me go
Hi.
over to you.
Hi. I was wondering if like you have any tips on sort of communicating with, let's say, not, I mean, maybe not necessarily like loved ones that have passed, but ascended masters.
You know, I would apply the similar you know how I was saying that it's the intentions that you set do matter, right? And so say if you were connecting with an ascended master, right? I would set up like an altar space for yourself, right? And you might even have a picture of that ascended master. Love working with the candle, right? Where it's like you light the candle, and in lighting the candle, you're setting that strong intention to open up communication to that ascended master. Okay. And probably with that ascended master, you'd want to just practice being in that nice kind of quiet and still space, right? Quiet, still space, and just opening up to see if there's a message for you. But I just love the idea of, setting up that sacred space for yourself, right? Because right there, then you're communicating that signal, whether it's to a loved one who has passed, an ascended master, that I'm opening up my communication to you, right? You're setting that sacred space to open up that communication. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay. Good.
Thank you.
Yes. Okay. And I'm not sure if Cece was wanting, she sent a message to the chat. Let's see. Talking about souls could make the choice to reincarnate. You want to know more?
Yeah, you had just mentioned like if the soul chooses to reincarnate. So I was like, oh, you mean that's a choice? Like that to me is fascinating. So
yeah, and I did witness that being a choice, right? With different loved ones in spirit form, where, so just so you know, right, there's no linear clock time within that spirit realm, right? There's no like set time frame where it's like, oh, they're in spirit form for 1 year and then they reincarnate to a human form, right? We're letting go of all of that, right? There's no linear clock time, right? And what sometimes when I'll check in with loved ones who have transitioned, they're kind of like, oh, I'm just I'm hanging out in spirit a little longer, I'm not quite ready to, kind of reincarnate and, revisit some of these things that I need to work through, right? Because there's these contracts of growth, right? That soul's wanting to experience, right? And then they'll make that choice when they're ready to go back. So I'm not, that's what I've witnessed, right? Where some might be like, you know what, 10, 20, 100 years, they might hang out in the spirit realm, right? And then when they're ready, they'll make that choice to reincarnate, right? Because maybe they, in their life review, they realized like there was some of these growth lessons that they didn't kind of complete, right? And they're going to want to kind of come back to the earth plane to reincarnate and revisit some of those things that they contracted to work through and grow and heal. Okay. But I have witnessed that it is a choice that they'll make. It's not like this set time frame. Okay. Yeah. I'm always fascinated with what I learn in I'm always fascinated with what I learn from the realm of spirit. Okay. It's not, I just want you to know that just like our lives, right? Things can change and flow and transform, right? And I want you to bring that same principle to the spirit realm, right? Things aren't set in stone. Things aren't like, oh, it's always like this, right? Allow yourself to be curious, to be surprised with what you find out, especially if you open up that communication to loved ones in the spirit, right? Okay. Right. So you're letting go of things needing to be a certain way, even if you hear people saying like, oh, it's always like this, right? You'll be surprised, right? Okay. So you're opening yourself to that flexibility when communicating with the spirit realm. Okay. Letting yourself be the learner. Okay. And I just want to talk about boundaries. Okay. So you know how when you're opening up to that communication, where I was recommending, setting up an altar or something like that, where you're communicating like, okay, I'm open to working with you, to receive communication from you, right? And sometimes people are not people, but spirits will want to come in and communicate with us. And if you're not wanting to communicate, that's okay, right? Set your boundaries, okay? Just like you would communicate with a person. Think about communicating a boundary with a person. You're gonna do that same practice with someone in spirit, okay? So some people, like, connecting with the spirit realm can be something that's a little scary. Okay. So if you notice that there's a spirit in your home, someone's trying to connect with you, and you're not wanting to connect with them, you're not wanting to communicate with them, you can communicate boundaries. Okay. Right. And it could be you're not welcome here, you need to leave my home now, right? Just think about how you would communicate boundaries to a person. Okay, we're trying to normalize the spirit realm a little bit here, right? It's just like, oh yeah, how would you communicate that to someone that's living, that's a person, right? If you needed to put a firm boundary, right? Communicate in words that same firm boundary. If you're picking up on a spirit, it doesn't feel good, it's coming into your space, right? Communicate that with your words. The added element that can be a little bit tricky when you're communicating boundaries with your words, whether it's out loud or just within you, right? Just silently to yourself. When you're communicating those boundaries, it's so important that that it matches what's going on within you. Okay, I'm gonna break this down. So say if you're sensing someone trying to communicate, you're not feeling good because you can feel like spirit in your home that you're not wanting to communicate. Within you, you're feeling curious, right? You have this curiosity within you, right? But then with your words, you're telling the spirit that they're not welcome in your home. You see how the curiousness within you and your words are not matching, and then you're going to notice that that spirit's not leaving your home. Okay, I see this a lot, so I just wanted to mention that. Make sure that whatever's going on within you is lining up with your words that you're communicating, right? Otherwise you're going to notice, I'm communicating the words, but the spirit's still here in my home. What's going on, right? You might check in with yourself and just make sure that it's very clear within you that you're wanting that spirit to leave, right? There's no lingering curiosity, wondering why are they even here, right? That would be a curiosity that keeps them in place in your home. Okay. And I just want to share just one of my, I call it a spirit cleanser that I make, and I want to give you guys my little recipe. So for the spirit cleanser, so say if there was a spirit in your home, say if a loved one has transitioned and you've been grieving, right? And you're processing that grief. And when we're processing emotions, if you notice, it can leave a heaviness in your home, right? And all of a sudden, home doesn't feel so great anymore, right? It feels heavy. it's not feeling warm and welcoming and loving and inviting to you, right? If there's spirit activity in your home, you might not feel safe in your home. Okay. And so you can do it. I call it spirit cleanser or energy cleaner. So what I do is I get thyme, right? So think of the herb. A lot of people cook with this thyme, right? And you're going to get 1/4 cup of the thyme. I'll also post the video and instructions of this recipe specifically in our Facebook group. But you'll get 1/4 cup of thyme, okay? 1/4 cup of lavender, okay? So lavender petals, the flower dried. A lot of people can get this at just like a natural health food type store, okay? So you have like a mason jar, right? A glass jar, okay? And in your glass jar, you would place 1/4 cup of the thyme, 1/4 cup of the lavender. A quart mason jar is about 3.5 cups, okay? And then I want you to get just regular white vinegar, okay? And pour the white vinegar in your jar with the herbs, right? And you might even get a spoon, mix the herbs up there and let that sit overnight, okay? And it'll turn this beautiful like pink color, pink purple color, okay? And then in the morning, I want you to go ahead and strain that out, right? So you get a strainer, you're straining the lavender and the thyme out, and you'll have this vinegar solution, okay? And put it in a spray bottle, okay? And in order to cleanse your home, this is just what I've learned over the years, right? Sometimes if you tell spirits go away, they can get feisty and they might push back a little bit, okay? So this is where the spirit cleanser is really helpful, the energetic cleanser. So you have it in your little spritzer bottle here, the solution. And this is just a great check-in right now, right? You can tune in with your heart, right? And just think about like how do you want your home to feel, right? How do you want your home to feel? You want it to feel warm, welcoming, inviting, okay? And this can be different for different people, right? How do you like your home to feel? And I want you to imagine that you can feel that in your heart, right? That like how you're wanting your home to feel, okay? Maybe it's loving, maybe there's a sense of gratitude, right? How do you want your home to feel, right? And you're holding that in your heart and you're kind of letting that feeling just flow off of you, emanate from you, okay? And you're going to open up all the doors and windows in your home. And you're going to go around and spray with your spritzer that you made, right? And you're just going to set that intention and welcome anything to leave that doesn't match this frequency that you're emanating, right? This how you're wanting your home to feel, okay? So it's not like you're saying like, hey, you need to leave, right? You're just welcoming things to either go on their way, or if they want to stay around, they just need to match the frequency that you're wanting your home to be, okay? And I just noticed that works really, really well, okay? Where you don't have to deal with like this backlash of trying to clear things out of your home, right? You're just like, oh, you have a choice here. I'm going to honor your choice. But if you want to stay, you need to be in line with this loving frequency, okay? And so you just, right, you're walking around, you're holding that frequency of what you want your home to be, and you're spraying and you're clearing everything out and just directing it to go out the windows, out the doors, okay? And that could take about a couple hours, okay? And then when you're done, you can just close the windows. And for me, it's just unbelievable, right? The difference, right? Where you go back into your home, and it's just incredible, okay? So again, I will put separate video instructions on how to do that if you notice heaviness in your home, spirit activity that you're not wanting, okay? Or maybe you've been opening up to communicate with spirit and something feels a little funny to you. You don't know what you welcomed in. you have that this spirit cleanser, energetic cleanser as a tool for you. Okay, if something like that happens. Okay. Okay. And before we close, I just want to check in with everyone. If you have any questions, just want to check in. Anything we didn't get to.
I have a question.
Yes, is that Sherry?
Yes, it is.
Sherry.
Thank you for all you shared today. It's very enlightening and I appreciate it. I just wanted to ask if maybe in one of your future meetings like this, could we talk about karmic contracts?
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's funny that you mentioned that, Sherry, because I was just thinking about earlier today. I was like, I want to do something about soul development.
There you go.
And karmic contracts goes right into that.
Right.
Yeah. I'm just writing it down.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Love that. Karmic contracts. Thank you, Sherry.
No problem.
Yeah. Okay. Anyone else have any questions?
I was just wondering how the spirit cleanser differs from smudging with sage. Is it similar?
I guess it could be similar. Why, I used to smudge with sage. The major difference that I've noticed with sage compared to like making your own kind of energetic spirit cleanser is the one thing I noticed with the spirit cleanser, for some reason, it would energetically like clear all the yucky gunk that you don't want out of your floors, out of your walls, and clear all of that out. That's the kind of the major difference that I've seen personally, like working with sage, where sage wouldn't really like go deep into the walls and the floor and clear the gunk out, where the kind of the energetic cleanser does. So if you were needing to do kind of just, maintenance, lighter cleansing, sage works good. If you're needing something deeper, then the energetic kind of spirit cleanser would kind of go in there and clear all that gunk. If there's any energetic stuff stored in the walls, stored in the floors. Okay.
Can you use fresh herbs? Is that?
Yep, I do that. I got thyme and lavender in my garden.
I do
Sometimes I'll just do the fresh ones as well as dried too.
Does it ever expire?
It
I had one
expires.
for a year ago. I think you gave me a bottle.
Yep. No, that should be fine. Just in general, I would say about a couple years. Yeah. Especially if you're keeping it, if you store it in the cupboard, okay? If you store it like in a darker place in the cupboard, right away from direct sunlight, okay? That helps. It should last, okay? And you can also, the biggest thing is smell it, right? When you smell it, can you smell some of the herbs there, right? You can still kind of smell the herbs. It's still good. Yeah. The herbs are the thyme and the lavender.
So Renee, how much do we need to spray? I mean, is it more about the intention when you're spraying, or do you need to just like go all over your room? Or
I would say you might end up doing, about 10 to 12 sprays, right? Where you're staying in tune with that intention in your heart of how you're wanting your home to feel, right? And like, say if you were just doing your living room or something, that might be 4 to 5 sprays, right?
okay.
So I might walk around my house, spray, right? And I'm holding that intention in my heart of how I'm wanting my home to feel, or my office, whatever space, right? And I might take a few steps and do another spray, take another few steps, do a spray. Okay. So it's not like you're spraying, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep. I'm excited for you guys to try this and would love to hear how it goes, how you notice the difference of how your home or your space feels.
Renee?
Yeah.
Can you hear me? This is Allie.
Hi,
Hi.
Allie.
Hi, I'm just curious what your ideas are about like connecting with pets that have passed.
Connecting with pets that have passed. So what I would do, if I'm connecting, right, you can use the altar thing, but it might be like you put their favorite, do they have a favorite bone? Do they have a favorite treat or something, right? Still something that represents them. Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, I would do the same thing. And with pets, for me, sometimes they can be loud. You'll tune in with them and they're like barking. And I'm just trying to see like their communication, it'll be a little bit different, right? Because they're a pet, right?
Mhm.
To where I would open yourself to receive more communication, not with the like receiving words, right? It might be in a different way.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Where you
Okay.
feel them like circling around your feet.
Uh-huh.
Okay. So just know that it might be more about communicating with them and knowing that they're there with you.
Uh-huh.
Okay. And right, and it's like open up to the feeling sensations. Okay.
Okay.
That they might communicate to you. Maybe they come, maybe you're sitting on the floor and they come and you feel them like nestling their head in your lap, right?
Mhm.
Okay. And a lot of times, I think that would be a good start right there. Okay.
Okay.
Really opening up to receiving kind of like the feeling sensations.
Okay.
Of them just really, and a lot of times our loved ones are wanting to communicate with us that they're okay, including pets, right? That everything's fine, they're okay, and that they're there with you, right? They haven't left, they haven't gone, they're still around, they're still just like watching over how you're living your life, they're part of your life, okay? And they're wanting you to know that they're okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Well, thank you, everyone. It's such an honor to be here with all of you. Thank you so much for taking time to talk about spirit with me. And I hope you have fun trying out some of the tools of connecting with spirit and even cleansing your home. Okay. And I do offer regular individual sessions, spiritual classes, workshops, retreats. Upcoming next week I think it is. Yeah, Tuesday, May 17th, I'm doing kind of a deep dive with the Akashic Records level 1 and 2, where it's all focused on accessing your own, a little different format where we'll be meeting with each other every couple weeks. So it'll be a lot of, question and answer time, practice time together. So if you're interested in that, just send me a private message, okay? Thank you, everyone. Just sending my gratitude to all of you. Thank you for being here. Aw. Thank you, thank you. I hope to see you next month. We're here at the Intuitive Cafe every second Wednesday of the month. Sending my love. Bye, everyone.